Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. If I could, board members Maloney and Butler are excused this evening, and if I could everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Board Member Stencil, and we'll follow that with a moment of silence for Ralph Zacchino. He passed away peacefully with his family on February 28th. Ralph's other great love was music. Hundreds of families throughout the Rochester area and beyond were in some way positively affected by Ralph's extensive career as a music teacher at Greece Arcadia High School and a choral director at Lakeside Presbyterian and St. Charles churches. With his wife as his accompanist, Ralph helped found the Greece Central Choral Society, which he led for 45 years. Everyone who has been blessed to sing under Ralph's direction has stories to share that reflect his sense of humor, charm, and personal interest and bring out the best in every person through his gift of music. So if we keep the Zacchino family in your thoughts and prayers, that would be much appreciated.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. If I could have someone move the agenda table, please. Moved by Mr. Stencil, second by Vice President Farmer. Are there any additions, corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of the agenda? That passes 7-0. Moving on to our union comments. President Eberts, welcome this evening.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I didn't realize how fast I'd be up here, so I appreciate that. That's very nice. First off, I just wanted to share with you all the results of our GTA food drive benefiting the Greece Ecumenical Food Shelf. Through a collective efforts from staff in schools, district office, transportation building, we were able to collect over 3,000 pounds of food, and we donated over $3,000 worth of money, to pass along to the Greece Ecumenical Food Shelf. And it's just a great thing to continue doing this. We've done it for 20-plus years, hundreds of thousands of pounds of food, and a lot of money, too. So we really look forward to helping our community in the future as well with this. Additionally, our Women's Committee Chair, Karen Schindler, is hosting another Her Stories event on March 12th. So I know many people here have participated in the past. If you're interested, please check it out. It's an event that we honor everyday heroines who make a difference in our schools and community. It's on our website and social media platforms if you're interested in learning more. Tonight, I want to take some time to recognize the power of partnership. True engagement where the expertise of educators is not only acknowledged but actively shapes the decisions that impact our schools. Should have never drank milk before I came here. Apparently that was a bad idea. There was a time many years ago when new curriculum programs were introduced with little input from those of us working directly with students. Thankfully, our last few superintendents really understood the need to use the expert opinions of those who work in schools on a daily basis. And thanks to initiatives like the Guiding Coalition, shared decision-making, and the creation of and refinement of school improvement plans, that has changed. Teachers are no longer just implementing decisions, we are helping to shape them. The Guiding Coalition plays a key role in ensuring the teacher perspectives are essential to discussions that drive progress. When we each fulfill our responsibilities with purpose and dedication, we create an environment where meaningful improvements take place. We are grateful for the trust and the confidence that the Greece CSD leadership and our Board of Education have placed in us. Your commitment to supporting and trusting educators has strengthened our ability to make informed, thoughtful decisions that support student success. By continuing to engage, listen, and respect the expertise of those in the field, we will keep moving forward. Because when teachers, administrators, and district leaders work as a team, we build a stronger, more effective school system. So thank you for your dedication, your insight, and your commitment to our shared mission, and let's keep this momentum going. Have a great night, everybody.
President Eberts, before you leave, can you check on that date? I have it as a different day. I just don't know if it switched or,
She changed it a couple times, but that's the most recent.
okay,
And then there's a mixer on the 28th, but it's all on the website too.
okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Dr. Heller?
Brought some props with me. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here this evening. My name is Dr. Shannon Heller, and I am the principal at the Early Learning Center. And I'm very happy to be able to share some of our GASA remarks with you this evening, share on behalf of some of my fellow colleagues, and the work we're doing around our guiding coalitions that have goal number 2 for our school improvement plans as it relates to our PLCs. So very happy to do that. And as you can see, you might see some green throughout this presentation because those of you who know me, you know that I might like this time of the year. So folks, first up here, we have some feedback and comments from Patty Hill in regards to their goal number 2 and their work at their school of PLCs. You can see that they have some of their evidence there of the work that they've done on the screen. Some work around their norms in particular, that of their scope and sequence for their different grade levels, like to make sure that they have a clear pathway in this work together and that it's communicated as such. Some of the call outs here is in regards to their goal, which states Patty Hill will increase from initiating to developing on the PLC rubric by the end of this year. So they're tracking their WIG, their goals. So with their lead measures, those actions that they're using to guide their work, as long as with their lag measures, which is how they're going to assess the work that they've been doing. They're looking at their common instructional agendas for each PLC meeting, make sure those are in place. Reviewing and reflecting, like I said, on team norms. That seems to be a theme throughout the evening and the share out tonight, which is so very important to the foundation of our PLCs. And then how we're going to measure our success in relation to our goals. They're calling out mid-year checks with a PLC rubric, and some leadership or some lead measures in their data, and then their staff perception survey, and they want to have a notable increase in that. So a little bit from Patty Hill. Next up, we have our friends from Olympia. I can hear Brandon in my head right now. But in regards to Olympia, I want to share out just some of the major highlights that they shared with us in regards to their PLC work at this school. So many of us are involved in that learning by doing to 4 book study. They are as well. And with that, I wanted to share out the following from Brandon and his team. So they have read the book that we just noted, and then their next steps are really creating professional learning opportunities from that book. And really what they had talked about is really focusing on topics that will include like defining PLCs for them. What are they not, being very explicit with that work. Professional learning on trust as well, making sure we're promoting psychological safety in the work that we're doing together and that we're building collaborative relationships. In addition, they added that ELA and Math Middle School PLC is underway and continues the work they have been doing all year. And what they're talking about is like identifying their essential standards, unpacking those standards. What does it look like in the curriculum? How are they meeting each individual student goal? And how do they know? So that's some of the work that Olympia wanted me to share out with you. What's next? My friends from Arcadia Middle School. And again, you'll see this theme throughout, but really wanting to talk about just how important the meeting norms are, and not just meeting norms to say, okay, who's going to have this role, who's going to have this role, but really like making sure that we're staying true to the PLC process that we're trying to put in place. So Arcadia wanted me to share out with you the following. Guiding Coalition at Arcadia Middle School is working, like we said, with PLCs to implement effective meeting norms. They include clear purposes, shared accountability, and data-driven decision-making. Many of their PLCs have already established norms and are implementing them regularly. Support needed to advance the PLC process includes time for planning, vertical alignment, and guidance on data collection, and standards. Taking a look at those, what are those most effective means to do that? So not only are they sharing with us some of the work they're doing, but what they would need to further their work going forward. So appreciate that share out. And then I wanted to kind of go and show you this. So last week, I just took some snapshots as we were actually in this room, and we had a chance to come together as a PLN, the principals and our district leaders, and we had a chance to meet, as we often do, and we took a look at our guiding coalition and our PLC work, like where were we, what's going well, what do we see in the immediate future that we want to act on, some questions we may have, and like support going forward. So you can see here my fellow colleagues. It was nice because next to me I had my fellow elementary principal colleagues, and then like to the left of me was like Shauna Sweet and our work that we're doing with the department head. So we were all together. So really it just shows how pervasive this work is. It's not just done in isolation in our schools or only like at 4 times during the year, but we're all in this work together. And what was great is that we were able to bring a member of our guiding coalition team with us, so to share in that work. And I found that so very, very valuable, and I believe many of our other colleagues did, because it's really showing, I think, transparency. For me, it happened to be a pre-kindergarten teacher who came with us, who's part of our guiding coalition. She's also on our SIT team, but I think it shows trust, like true collaboration, transparency, and also just time for us to be thought partners. So just truly valuable. And then because I like artifacts, you guys, I actually brought our poster, because now I'm going to go ahead and do the ELC show for just a moment. But what I was going to say is this is the little artifact that we have that you can see on the screen. This is what each team walked away with. So after myself and Michelle, happens to be our teacher that came, we then shared this work that we did back with our guiding coalition team and that of our school improvement team. So making sure that this work is very iterative. So just some of the categories, and I'm going to save you by not sharing all of them. Many of them are very similar to my fellow colleagues that are sharing out in other schools. But what has your guiding coalition done so far this year? So in addition to everything that's been noted so far, some of the things that we wanted to highlight was that we had administered a trust survey. We are meeting regularly with our pre-K through K2 staff. That can be a more challenging piece to get around because we're all on different schedules, but we're valuing the fact that once a month we're coming together for a half an hour to share out the progress of this guiding coalition and our PLC work, and doing that as an alignment and continuum pre-K through K2. So really wanting to show how valuable this work is and making time for it and for that messaging. We've developed a building blocks, I would say, for an effective PLC that we brought back from our guiding coalition and vetted through that team and SIT. But like just a little simple graphic for everyone in our building blocks of a PLC, and we had determined as a collective unit that it would be trust, urgency, and collaboration. And collaboration in the sense of not just people being present, but like really raising each other up to the next level, making each other better, accountable, the whole nine. And then one of the other pieces that I'll share with you is our scope and sequence that we've created as an ELC to kind of help us do this work. So we had each month this going into this school year kind of segmented into what work we're going to do each month with our guiding coalition, or like at least what we thought we would do as far as leading us to that end goal of having a really highly effective PLC process going into next school year. So you can see here that we have some notations in red. So those comments in red, that work actually came out of this time that we were allocated for this PLN work. And again, I'm just highlighting what the ELC did, but the red notations are like time that we had to adjust, modify. We again took back to our guiding coalition and then to our SIT process, and then we're going to take back to our entire staff. So this accordion model of sharing out this work, being transparent, asking for feedback. But that time that we were given last week was very, very helpful in kind of having us question where we are at this time, where we need to be, and kind of going forward with a sense of urgency in a great way. Like, we're excited to do this work. We want to make sure that we're thorough, though, and that everyone is vetted in. And then just our goal at the PLC as it relates to, or at the ELC as regards to PLC, is to have that process in place next year. Some of the things that we shared out on this template that I'm holding was just what are our immediate thoughts of going into next year with this plan, and we just kind of highlighted some of the things that I shared out already. One of the things that we've implemented along with that pre-K, K2 connection is an additional extra PLC time to do vertical alignment work each month with each of our grade levels. That's something we started 3 weeks ago, and we're going to be doing for till the end of the year to kind of see how that works and get feedback. But that's literally looking at student work as it relates to the standards process and looking vertically along the grade levels. So we're excited about that. All right, you guys, that's what I have to share with you this evening. And does anyone have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome, and thank you for the time.
All right, I have nobody sign up from Gus, Teamsters, or AgSept, correct? All right, moving on to Residents Forum, we have 5 speakers this evening. I will call you up. You can come up to this podium, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Our first speaker this evening is Bridget Michelli. Welcome.
All right, good evening, board. My name is Bridget Maselli. I'm the mom of 2 children, Arcadia Middle and Arcadia High School. I'm here to address the continuing violence in our schools and also including locked bathrooms, especially at Arcadia High School. I'm a working professional, and I'm guessing a bunch of you are as well. When it comes to the workplace, we are handed a handbook on day 1 of hire. In there, it addresses all the rules and understandings we need to know. Annually, we are also required to take sexual harassment training and workplace violence training. You are required to turn in your certificate to HR once you have completed your training, showing you understand the rules. Violence is also not allowed in the workplace, and there are steps to overcome situations that may be hostile or argumentative that is taught in these trainings. If you feel that your workplace does not adhere to these steps and the workplace remains hostile, what will each of you do? You're going to look for a new job, aren't you? The students don't have a choice. The school is their workplace. The teachers that are on your staff is their workplace. Each student and teacher should be able to come to the school to feel safe, as this is their job. They're entitled to a safe and orderly, purposeful place for all students to gain an education. Their mental health is being ruined, as well as many students are scared to come to school. That's a huge red flag to me, and should be to all the rest of you. Daily hold-in places due to behavior that could be and should be corrected. My daughter was subjected to this behavior last year. She was an 8th grader playing varsity soccer representing Arcadia. That's a big accomplishment. Meanwhile, when she was playing, she tore out her ACL meniscus. She returned to school to have boys target her and kick her off of her crutches. She went to the proper authorities, just like you would with HR, and the authorities told her, well, that's just normal middle school boy behavior. That's unacceptable to me. They also told us, well, we don't have it on video, so it never happened. That's when I went and filed a DASA, because it was vice principal Arcadia thought that this wasn't an important thing. Mrs. Clickio reached out to me, and she didn't find this funny at all. Then we go to the locking of the bathrooms. My daughter also has a medical excuse to use a bathroom. 9th grade. Now she's in high school. The nurse tells her that she's not allowed to. She politely tells her, I have a medical note in my file. Please check my file. The nurse denies her again. She tells her, you can go this one last time, never again. I call the principal. The principal says there must be a mix-up. This is now the 2nd time I've spoken to the principal about locking the bathrooms. I get an email the next morning from the nurse stating that, oh, she did have a note on file, and I gently asked her why this happened. She didn't have a good answer for me. She said, I don't have an answer. So to you as the Board of Education, I'm asking you guys that you take things seriously, because our students cannot be, for their mental health, subjected to this every day.
Thank you, Ms. Michelli. Our next speaker is Milana Michelli. Welcome. This one. Nope. Thank you.
All right. Hello, Board of Education. My name is Milana Maselli, and I'm a 9th grader at Arcadia High School. I'm part of NJHS, an honor student, a musician, above the influence, and a varsity athlete, as my mom has reiterated. I'm inviting all of you to come with me one day to shadow me to see what the life of a student at Arcadia is like. Going into high school, I did not know what to expect, and I was subject last year to violence. I played varsity soccer as an 8th grader, which is a huge accomplishment. I was representing your school when I tore my knee out. I came back to school and was physically assaulted and got kicked out from under my crutches repeatedly. I brought it to the concerns of the vice principal and my principal, which were told that it's middle school behavior and it didn't happen. How's that for a response? Great, right? No. Sorry. Now, fast forward to ninth grade, my first day, I was sitting in the cafeteria in study hall while a kid was yelling outside, threatening things, and came in there and started screaming at everybody and punched a kid right in front of me. Wow. Our days consist of going through metal detectors, fights, and good kids being forgotten while the bad kids get away with everything. And this happening is not letting me be able to learn and not letting me be able to use the bathroom, as they are always locked. And that whole situation my mother just talked about. I am not alone in this feeling, but I know that I'm strong enough to come in front of all of you and talk about it instead of sitting there and being scared to say anything. You guys should ask the students how they feel, because I think your eyes would be open immensely. We want change, we want safety, and we want you to hear our voices. Again, I invite each of you to come with me and sit through a day of Arcadia unannounced. I appreciate your time tonight, and I hope you can make a change for us in the future and the generation of students. Thank you.
Thank you, Milana. Tiffany Kilberry?
Ready? Good evening. Thank you to the board for hearing our voices tonight. My name is Tiffany, and I've been a Greece resident for 43 years. I graduated from Greece Athena High School in 1999. I chose to stay in Greece and raise my son here. My family and I own several businesses in Greece as well. With that said, I am here tonight to speak on behalf of Greece Arcadia, where my son is a 10th grade student. My concerns are based on the frequent disruptions in the school. A few examples are: an altercation with 2 female students during dismissal. An ambulance had to be called due to a medical emergency. An incident that occurred where a former student was let into the high school by a current student, which led to a holding place for quite some time as the police had to be contacted. Also, a more recent one where a student and a parent had a crisis and we were in a 2-hour holding place for one student. Another issue was at our Olympia Arcadia basketball game where multiple police were called as a former student was jumped in the parking lot. And the most recent was Thursday of last week, where there was an altercation with 2 female students in the hall during classes, fighting on the ground, screaming, with one staff member trying to break this up. The school went into a holding place for about 15 minutes or so due to this incident. Think about being a student who comes every day ready to learn. Then think about being in the middle of taking a test or doing an assignment and the announcement comes on that you're going into a holding place, doors need to be locked, and students need to clear the halls, not knowing why or what's going on. Now you're expected to finish taking your test or focus on the teacher and not be distracted. How is that possible? It is not possible, and it interrupts the learning for all other students. What about the students that are locked in the cafeteria during this time with minimal authority? This cannot be safe. When meeting with the principal, she didn't seem to want the extra support the parents are requesting. There are many wonderful teachers, students, and staff at Arcadia. There's a small group of students who are making education hard for the bulk of the students at the school. This has not only affected our academics, but the desire to go to school. We need more parent involvement. We do not have the resources to support the small group of kids who need the extra support. They choose to act this way because they know there is little to no consequences. These issues have not only affected our students and staff, but the surrounding businesses. What kind of image does this portray for Greece? The school is focused on favoring students with behavioral issues. We have lost all credibility as to what school is about: academics, laughing with friends, and how to be somebody in this world. I asked the board to please help support this school with increased security guards, security cameras near bathrooms, more social workers, and consequences for actions. Something must change. Our academic rates are at an all-time low. When behaviors are on the rise, academic rates decrease. We must raise our standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Roxanne Angst. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am the parent of an 11th grader who currently attends Arcadia High School. I also have a daughter who attended 4 years and graduated in 2020. I have for the past 8 years dealt with school administration primarily on the issue of school violence. I've been lucky enough to never have any direct issues involving any of my children. However, both have been significantly impacted from the events that occur at school. My main ongoing concerns surround school fights, lockdowns, hold in place, weapons being brought to school, bathroom usage and availability, and the lack of accountability exercised by the school with these problem students. There are approximately 1,100 students at this school, with less than 5% causing these disruptions. Although this is a very low percentage, they are having a significant impact on the large majority that attend school responsibly. Not only are students impacted, but parents are as well. We are left to unteach our children that this is acceptable or responsible behavior, and that despite our child seeing students that were just involved in an incident walk freely around the school afterwards, that in reality there are consequences for actions. We are left to send them every day to school where we have proven evidence that it's unsafe. We are forced to talk about ways to keep them safe when they are at school because we see the danger and know what could happen. Just since the beginning of this year, there have been more than 5 physical fights during school hours, one requiring outside medical attention. On February 7th, my daughter attended a high school basketball game at Arcadia where police and fire and EMS were called for a large fight. Another incident where a student brought a taser into school. Another incident where there was a report of a student bringing a knife into school. And lastly, a student making a Snapchat holding guns. And this is all in just 2 months. And these are only incidents that I have been made aware of. It has been this way for far too long. I don't feel I'm being overdramatic as a parent when I say this is a serious problem. Do we have to wait for the next bomb threat to be real? Do we have to wait for it to be a gun instead of a taser? I ask of you all, are we doing enough? Are there more ways we can support the administration at Arcadia? Are our standards for behavior, accountability, and responsibility that low? Is it too much to ask to have a school for your children to attend, to be proud of, and want to engage in? When is this going to be recognized as a serious concern with immediate and direct action? Do we have to wait for that escalating incident to occur? I will not be left saying I didn't speak out, I didn't make people aware, I didn't plead for a change. Will you all be able to say the same? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Angst. Next, Courtney Cardo. Thank you, welcome.
Good evening. My name's Courtney Cardo. I'm a mom of 4 Greece students. I'm here to talk about school safety, common theme. We are currently in 3 different schools within the district. Not sure how aware you are of some of these classes look like during the school day. My 4th grader is currently in an ICT class, and since the beginning of the school year, there's been issue after issue with a small group of students, but one in particular. There's been desks tossed, chairs pushed down, thrown over, walls cleared of students' work, students having to leave the classroom for behaviors, students having the behavior walking out of the classroom, chokeholds against other students, and just plain out disruptive behavior during teaching time. Now we have a new student coming into the same class with documented behaviors so bad it became common knowledge over the weekend through a news outlet. My daughters have 2 teachers who are freaking angels in that building, and are just downright fabulous to the students. They have gone above and beyond to keep these students safe and themselves. I'm here to ask you a simple, basic question. What about the other student in these classes that have to experience this? Why aren't their educations not as important? What about these teachers who have to endure this day in and day out? They went to school, like many of you, because they wanted to teach and make kids' futures bright, not to be a bouncer at an elementary school. We're losing good teachers because of this. Why do they have to endure this? Why should 9 and 10-year-olds be fearful of going to school because of another student? Mr. McCabe, what if every time you came to a board meeting, you never knew if Mr. Maloney was going to have a good meeting or whether he was going to throw his binder and chair at you? That's what they're dealing with every single day in this building. My daughter has severe anxiety over this situation. She went from loving school to asking to stay home all the time. Morning routines became fights to get her ready, needing to go to the nurse frequently to escape the room. Teachers came up with a plan for her with a safe pass to leave to go to another class. While we appreciate the fact of what they did for her, why does my child have to leave a room where she's supposed to be learning because another student is so disruptive? Why isn't her education just as important? And why isn't her emotional well-being not taken into consideration? I know there's protocols. I know there's needs for documentation. I know our state put us in this situation. But what I don't know and I don't understand is how you as grown adults sit here who are supposed to be our voice on education, who are elected to represent us, can sit there knowing what I'm saying is happening and not fight for us and our kids. Not fight for the taxpayers who can't afford to go to private school because our taxes are too damn high. Safety is a giant concern, as you can all see. You need to start recognizing this, and you need to start changing something, because when something happens, you are all going to be held accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Cardo. That concludes our residents' forum for this evening. Moving on to staffing. 2.01, can I have the staffing moved to the table, please? Moved by Ms. Moore, second by Vice President Farmer. Any comments, questions, or concerns on staffing? Seeing none, all those in favor? That passes 7-0. Moving on to tenure, can I have somebody move the tenure to the table, please? Moved by Mr. Stetzel, second by Mr. Bonagorio. Is there any comments, questions, concerns on tenure? Seeing none, all those in favor? That passes 7-0. Moving on to 4.01, ESSA designation update. Superintendent Smallene.
Hi, I'd like to ask Deputy Superintendent Mark Fleming to come up and share our latest update on ESSA designation. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Smallene. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you an update regarding our ESSA designation. As you know, school improvement is a complex process. We are going to be providing you with a series of informational meetings with regards to the change that we are undertaking with regards to school improvement. Tonight's presentation specifically is targeted around two particular goals. One is to notify you at our public meeting about our ESSA designations, and our second goal for tonight is to share with you the steps that we have to take mandated by New York State in order to achieve that school improvement. So let's begin with a definition of ESSA. As I'm sure you all know, this is a federally mandated program, the Every Student Succeeds Act. This replaced the No Child Left Behind Act from a number of years ago. And what this act mandates is that New York State designates the bottom 10% of schools in multiple areas and subgroups that are in need of improvement. There's a variety of measures that they use to determine whether or not a school is in the bottom 10%. You can see on the screen in front of you the ways in which success is measured. It includes academic achievement, graduation rates, English language proficiency, absenteeism, and college, career, and civic readiness. So all of our schools, K-12, are measured within these particular measures of success. New York State also designates subgroups that we are held accountable for. So we have all of our students are held against those measures of success from the previous slide, but then we also have subgroups based on race, based on English language learners, based on students that are classified with a disability, and those that are economically disadvantaged. We are required to make sure that all students and all of those subgroups are progressing adequately. So as I said, New York State designates schools that are in the bottom 10% in the state for one or more subgroups as being in need of improvement. This identification occurs annually. So it could be that all students in a particular school have been identified for needing progress either in academics or in attendance or in graduation rate, but it could be that one particular subgroup or multiple subgroups also need to make sure that they are making academic progress. There are 4 different types of designations that New York State hands out. I want to go through each of these. The first is LSI. This is Local Support and Improvement. This used to be known as schools that are in good standing. New York State changed the name of this designation, operating under the principle that schools are always continuously trying to get better. So schools that are in good standing are known as schools that are LSI, again, in need of local support and improvement. The next level of designation is TSI, or Targeted Support and Improvement. These are schools that are newly identified for one or more subgroups, and those schools need a local set of supports governed by the district in order to make progress. Schools that are classified as ATSI are Additional Targeted Support and Improvement Schools. These are schools that have had one or more subgroups that have been identified in that lower 10% for more than 3 years. And then we have schools that are designated as CSI, schools in need of comprehensive support and improvement. Those are schools that are in the lowest 5% across the state. Currently here in the Greece Central School District, we do not have any schools that have been identified as CSI. We have one school, and that is Greece Olympia, that is currently identified as ATSI. And then we have 4 additional schools that are in the TSI designation. 2 of those schools, Lakeshore and Pinebrook, have been TSI schools. And then we have 2 newly identified schools, Buckman and Craig Hill. The remaining 12 schools in our district are all in the LSI rating. So to get a little more specific and granular in terms of the designations, before you see the subgroups that are identified for each of those schools that need to make progress. Our ATSI school is Olympia, and they have been identified for their black students, as has Pinebrook and Buckman. Again, those are both TSI schools. Our students with disabilities at Craig Hill have been identified, and then Lakeshore has 2 subgroups in need of improvement, our black students and our students with disabilities. So New York State specifies a series of required actions that each school district must undertake in order to help schools move into an area of improvement where they can move out of these particular designations. And I want to go through those particular actions and the timelines with you now. The first action is to assemble an improvement planning team. We, of course, at all of our school sites have school improvement teams, but New York State is very clear that a team must be involved in the planning and processes that are required in order to help this school move out of its designation. That team needs to conduct a survey of parents, staff, and students, so all of our stakeholders, and the team also has to conduct a needs assessment to really drill down into the data to see what schools need to do to move out of their designation. Additionally, each school must develop a SCEP. We love our acronyms here in New York. That is a School Comprehensive Education Plan. Now, of course, here in Greece, all of our schools operate with a school improvement plan. This particular document is a very specific document set up by New York State with specific protocols and processes that each school must follow. There are 3 main structures within that SCEP: the commitments or goals that each school must commit to, the action steps or key strategies that the school must conduct, and then the progress targets that they are going to identify for both the middle of the year and the end of year, and the use of benchmarks to see where they are in terms of making that annual progress. Furthermore, each school must identify an evidence-based intervention known as an EBI to be included within their SCEP. What exactly is an EBI? This is a research-based strategy that is going to be utilized within the school to help address the gaps that have been identified by that root cause analysis. In other words, what is the work, the targeted work that we're going to do within our building to help get at the identified problem that the stakeholder group has pointed out? Furthermore, New York State requires that this EBI be from an approved clearinghouse. So New York State provides a list of acceptable interventions that can be implemented within a particular school to help it make progress. It also provides a list of various clearinghouses, including the What Works Clearinghouse, that schools can reference in order to find out exactly what strategies they're going to implement within their buildings to make progress. Another required action is that the district itself must provide support, organized support, to each of the identified schools. So that's where a district office here in Greece will come in to help make sure that each of our schools are making adequate process to shed their designation. So how exactly do we do that? Well, just very briefly, we do provide professional learning and support. Twice a month, we have our leadership and our principal learning networks. Dr. Heller referenced those earlier in her GASA comments, where we're pulling together our teachers and really focusing in on those EBIs. Specifically here in Greece, as you all know, we are utilizing our professional learning communities, doing very targeted and methodical training around the professional learning community process. So this work is going on in all of our school sites with a particular set of focus and support within our identified schools. Additionally, we provide our schools with data dives throughout the year, an opportunity for the school improvement team and the administrators to come together and really drill down into that data throughout the year to see the effectiveness of the strategies that they've implemented and to see how they are making progress. Furthermore, we do structured school visits throughout the year to go and visit the actual school, take a look at classrooms, work with the team in the building to determine how their progress is coming and to offer any support that we can lend to them. New York is very clear about the timeline that we have to follow. Here is a snapshot of the timeline that's required for the development of our SCEP. Just today, Buckman, as a newly identified school, participated in a New York State-led webinar to really get a deep understanding of the work that they need to do in writing their own SCEP. Throughout the month of March, they'll begin in earnest their SCEP planning, identifying those stakeholders that I referenced earlier that are going to make up their improvement team and start to discuss and look at what EBIs they might decide to employ. In April, they'll do some data analysis that will include student interviews to gather the data that they need, again, to inform what EBIs they will employ. Beginning in May, they'll start to do some root cause analysis to drill down into the data they've collected. We also host our parent exchanges throughout all of our buildings, and Buckman will be utilizing that as an opportunity, as will all of our schools that have been identified, to really gather parent input on what work they need to do in their building to make adequate academic progress. In June and July, the actual SCEP will be written and formalized, and then it will be submitted here to the Board of Education for review, posted on our website for public viewing, and then the Board of Education is required to vote on the approval of the SCEP plans for each of our 5 cited schools. As I said, we'll continue to provide updates on the progress of our school improvement processes, not only for our designated schools, but for all of our school sites here in Greece. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Sensel.
Mark, I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. It looks like you guys are doing a lot of hard work, and I don't even know where to begin. I have so many questions because there's just so much to this. I wanted to ask, and this is really coming off of page 7 on their slideshow. So schools designated as TSI or ATSI require specific interventions. What happens if the school does not meet the improvement targets within your designated time frame? And is there a contingency measure in place if that does happen?
So there's not necessarily a contingency measure in place. What could happen is if you are not making adequate progress with your particular subgroup that you've been identified, so in other words, if the same subgroup continues to fall short of the academic targets that have been set by the state, then your designation you could move down that scale. So when you are a CSI school, for instance, New York State is going to provide individuals that are actually going to be here on site that are going to have much more input into the plan that you are writing and much more oversight. So that will be an example of just the level of support increases if you are not making that adequate progress.
Mr. Bonagoro.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fleming. First off, I want to acknowledge, this has been an issue, a concern for some of us for quite a while, and I know we've had updates in the past. But what I want to take this opportunity is to say thank you. It seems to me that you're hearing our concerns, and I hope also concerns of other folks out there.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. Page 8, you give the designations. Can you give a little more insight into that? I know there are academic disparities, disciplinary disparities. What are we looking at among these schools here?
So in terms of these specific designations here, right, correct. So these are based on academic performance. So to offer a little more clarity on that, students in grades K through 8, their academic performance is measured by the annual ELA and math exams that are given by New York State in grades 3 through 8. So I didn't contradict myself there. Students in grades K1 and 2 are also held accountable for how students in grades 3 through 8 perform. It's a complex formula that I won't bore you with right now, but just rest assured so these designations here are based on students' performance on those particular assessments that are given in the spring.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I have a few.
Okay, anybody else? All right, you can roll with them.
Okay. Let's see, just a couple here.
Mr. Stetzel, go ahead while Mr. Bonagorio's is getting there.
I wanted to ask about the root cause analysis piece.
Yes.
Because I love data and I'm always interested in this. What are your methodologies, or how do you collect the data specifically? Do you collect data beyond what the state is mandating as well? And aside from the quantitative piece, are you also looking at the qualitative piece that both the teacher and the teacher's reporting and that you see in the classroom, I guess?
Yeah, great question. So the data, so first of all, we're not analyzing initially the New York State performance data because we don't have those results necessarily at our fingertips. So we don't get quite the level of data that we would like right away in terms of how we could dig into that to set the work that we want to do. So what we do here is we pull various assessments. You're familiar with iReady, the other assessments that we use to really try to drill down that data. There's a number of different root cause analysis protocols that we utilize. There's a fishbone protocol, there's the 5 whys. So that's what a team will use. They'll decide which one they want to use to really dig into the data. And then, of course, it's not just academic data. So even if the citation is for academics, we're going to look at attendance data. We're going to look at behavior data to see what kind of correlations could we make for why maybe students are not performing. But qualitative data is important as well, and that's why schools are required to conduct that needs assessment survey. So we're looking at our survey data from Panorama. We're hosting the parent exchanges to hear from parents, what are you seeing at home? What are we not doing as a school to help your child succeed? So that level of qualitative street data absolutely plays a role in writing these plans. Did I answer all your questions?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bonagor?
So you've identified the process for it. Will we be given some specific concrete actions that are being taken? And will these be done in a way that's consistent across the district, or is this going to be a building-by-building approach?
Yeah, great question. So the key to an effective school improvement plan is specificity. In my 25 years of education, I've seen school improvements plans that have failed because they're too vague, too general, or quite frankly, try to do too much. When we're specific and targeted on what's wildly important, that's when we're able to move the needle. And fortunately, New York State, in this current iteration of their improvement requirements, recognizes that. So the SCEP plan asks you to be very, very clear and specific about what key strategies you are going to undertake. So yes, when those SCEPs are submitted to the Board of Education, it's going to be very clear what buildings are doing. Now, in terms of your second question, with regards to whether or not there's going to be consistency across the 17 school plans, the evidence-based strategy, thank you. The evidence-based strategy that a school is going to use could vary. I would tell you the professional work that we are doing here as a district for all of our school sites is around professional learning communities. So most likely what you are going to see within these school plans is a focus on professional learning communities. Again, how are we pulling teachers together to have collaborative conversations about kids, about what's working and what's not, and what do we need to do to act on the data that we are seeing on a week-to-week basis in our classrooms. That's essentially what professional learning communities are. That is on the list of EBIs from New York State. It's endorsed by educational researchers across the world, that process. So I think you will see consistency, but each school is unique. And that's why we ask a school improvement team through a shared decision-making process to put together that plan. And so you'll see some variation, but I think broad strokes will be similar.
Thank you. I do have another. Sure.
Joe, you got one more? Or you got more than one?
One or two. Yeah.
We'll go with Ms. Lake.
Sure.
One of the concerns I had with the school improvement plans last year was that the goals were not very specific.
Right.
And measurable.
Right.
And so that's something I'm really looking forward to seeing, so that I feel I have a lot more information in order to approve those.
So you referenced, I think, maybe 2 meetings ago, Ms. Lake, the use of SMART goals, for instance, right? That notion of that being
Tonight, too.
specific and measurable, right? So what we are utilizing within all of our school improvement plans, and what we're asking, even though New York State does not do this, what we're asking our identified schools to do is to use the 4DX process, which asks schools to identify a wildly important goal that is very, very specific. Your X to Y by when. Here's where we are. Here's where we want to get to by June. And here are the specific strategies or lead measures that we are going to undertake to make that goal happen. So I think that you will see an increase across every single school site because of the mandate that we've put in place around specificity.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to that.
You're welcome.
So I have to go back to my original question, which was regarding the specific citations. I believe in the past, at least one of our schools was designated for disparate disciplinary action, suspensions in particular, maybe 2 schools. But I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. These are specifically only for academic performance.
That's correct.
So-
These citations right here, these designations are for academic performance, correct.
So have the other issues gone away, the past issues regarding disparate
No, so that's a
suspensions?
different citation. So the citations that I showed you on this particular screen here, LSI down through CSI, those are for those measures that I showed some previous slides, and that's what these 5 schools are cited for. We are currently, what you're referring to, we are currently cited for our suspension rates for Black students and students with disabilities, and that's part of our CAP. That's a separate designation. That's a district designation.
Okay. In that regard, then, are we actually looking at more than 5 schools that have designations?
With regards to the CAP, that's a district citation. Our entire district has been cited for that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more for the time being, I guess. When will, you gave us broad timelines, and then at the last page shows that you'll be coming back to the board with specifics, and then the board will be required to make approvals, but there's no
Correct.
date on that. When will those?
So it's interesting, New York State has, in fact, just during our study session, released the SCEP and what that document specifically looks like. We had to make some projections, so the specificity around that date has not quite been released, but we will be sure to update you that as soon as we have that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 4.02, technology updates. Superintendent Smalley.
Okay, I'd like to ask Mr. Brad Malone to come up and share our technology plan. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Brad Malone. I'm the Executive Director of Information and Instructional Technology and Digital Innovation. Next week marks my 9th month in the district. Yes. And in the 9 months, my team and I have done a comprehensive review of the hardware and infrastructure of the district to make sure that we had an understanding of what is in place and where we need to move to. Superintendent Smalley and the cabinet thought this would be a good opportunity for me to review my findings, talk about some of the challenges and opportunities we've identified, and some of our action steps moving forward. We're going to talk about 5 areas of focus tonight. The first is with staff devices. When I started looking at our staff devices, it became very clear to me, just like every district in the country, around 2020, there was an explosion of devices in the district. And all of a sudden, people that didn't need the devices before, all of a sudden needed them. Some of that is related to the pandemic. Some of it is just the increase of instructional and operational software and web-based resources that are out there. All of a sudden, our paraprofessionals who had never needed devices before needed them to support our students' learning. Our mechanics, our school nurses, people that never needed devices before needed devices to do their jobs on a daily basis. In this exploration, what we came to find is that during that explosion of technology, about 1,700 employees needed a device on a daily basis. But we have about 3,400 devices assigned out to staff. And there's lots of reasons that occurred, but that's leading to some issues now as those devices start aging out. Some of those challenges that we've identified is that we don't have a clear refresh schedule for those 3,400 devices. We have no life cycles, we have an aging fleet, and we have a limited reserve inventory. So I recommended 3 major changes to the cabinet around technology practices with staff devices. And the first is that we need to streamline the number of devices we're allocating out to our staff. Just from both a financial point of view as well as maintenance and support, we need to get back closer to a 1-to-1 ratio. And we're going to do that by pinpointing for each position what device best allows them to do their work and making sure that's the device that we're assigning them out. We also need a life cycle. One of the goals I told my team is that I want to be able to point to any employee that asks me and tell them exactly what year they can expect their device to be replaced. They might not be happy with that answer, but at least they'll have an answer about when that's going to occur. And so that we have done. And finally, in my first few months here, I got a lot of requests from our teaching staff. We give the majority of our teaching staff Chromebooks, and many of them wanted to switch to PC laptops with Windows operating system. And with a lot of exploration, I'll be honest, it came down to really a preference. There was not a instructional need that they needed them for, but they had a preference with Microsoft Word and with some other things and just liking that operating system better. We looked at the market, we looked at what instructional tools we needed them to use, we looked at the fact we support Microsoft devices and Chrome devices in the district, and we decided, you know what, there's not much of a price difference. Actually, in some cases, Chromebooks are actually more expensive these days, which is a huge switch in the market from 10 years ago. So we're allowing our teaching staff a choice to decide what device will best work for them. We want to make sure that they're comfortable when they come in and that they have a device that they feel comfortable leading their instruction with. We have a 4-year refresh plan that's based around the bargaining units, except for GTA, which is so large, I split it into the next 3 years. And we're going to move through and replace those devices over the next 4 years. That's a little about our staff devices. We also discovered a lot about our student Chromebooks. As you all know, we give student Chromebooks to all of our students. At our elementary levels, we currently assign them out as class sets. We give the teacher a set of devices. At our secondary schools, we give them a device in 6th grade, and then there's no real plan about when they give a device again. 7 years until they graduate is just too long for a device. So what we're going to do instead is we're moving to replacing devices in grades K, 3, 6, and 9. And they're going to be assigned to individual students, even at the elementary level. We have hundreds of students that can use devices over the summer for academic summer support that when they're in the classrooms, we couldn't assign out to them. So we're going to change that a little bit. Another major change we're making is that currently when students damage devices, and I'll let you in a little secret, children break things. And after seeing thousands of devices broke, very few of them are malicious, but most of them are just because kids are kids. And so what we do now is we send them over to BOCES, and then BOCES bills us for parts. We're going to switch to a warranty system. That's going to stabilize the costs. It's also going to dramatically increase how fast we get these devices back, because BOCES takes months and longer to replace, because they're just not staffed to be able to replace them quickly. When we move to warranties, manufacturers can replace in days or weeks. We'll mail them out to them, they'll fix them, they'll send them back to us. So those are some of the major changes we're making to student devices. We've just begun investigating our printing situation in the district. We have about 800 printers in the district with an average of 10 years old. That's very old in technology ages. We're having trouble both getting replacement parts and honestly, for some of them, even toner to be able to. So over the next year, we're going to develop a plan to both shrink the inventory. I think 800 is a very generous allotment of printers. I believe we can bring that down without affecting the ability to print by that much. And we're also going to replace them over the next few years. The next area is the network infrastructure. And we're going to be talking very specifically about our wireless network. And before I get into it, there's two terms I think it's really important for us to talk about. The first is end of life. This is the date that the manufacturer stops selling a specific piece of equipment. So if you think of it in terms of Apple, iPhones, when they come out with the iPhone 16 last year, they stopped selling the 12. That's the end of life for that 12. And that's kind of a signal to the market. This is a device that's being phased out, a model that's being phased out. Next is end of support. This is a much more important, much more critical date to pay attention to in our world. This is when they no longer offer support for that device. They don't patch it anymore, giving security updates. They don't update the operating system, and they won't help you if there's a problem. This is like when all of a sudden your iPhone won't take updates anymore, or you can't use the latest apps. This is an inconvenience and a minor security issue when we're talking about consumer iPhones. It is a critical vulnerability when we start talking about networks. What we've come to find out in our exploration and our investigations is that our network switches, this is what kind of controls the traffic from devices out to the internet and back. About 237 of them will be end of support in October 2025. Again, end of support is when things become a really critical situation. Our controllers, which is basically what allows, when you walk down the hall, it passes your laptop from device to device to device. Those are end of life at the end, or just a few months ago, and they're end of support. Again, that critical date is just in January 2027, which is approaching very rapidly. And finally, and probably most concerning to me, is our access points. These are these things up on our ceilings, in every classroom, in the hallways, all over the place, that your devices are connecting to in order to get back to our network. 42% of them are already end of support. So that is a concerning situation that we want to rectify as soon as possible. So with working with Cabinet, with working in the Finance Department, we developed the plan that over the next 2 years, we're going to need to replace our wireless network entirely. All parts of it will need to be updated to the latest models. This will allow us some opportunities to bring some new features and technology in, but most importantly, it will diminish the vulnerabilities that we have to outside agents. And the final topic I'm going to talk about tonight is our telephony system. This is our telephone system, and I'll be incredibly honest with this. This entire system has been end of support for a couple of years. And so what this means is that we're no longer able, our servers, which control all the traffic of telephones ringing, as well as even the phones themselves are end of support, meaning that we can't get support for them, they're not being updated, it's really critical time. We're feeling it often with our servers going down. If a phone falls off a table and breaks, it's very hard for me even to get a replacement for it because they're not selling them anywhere. We have to buy refurbished ones off the market. And so this summer, we're going to do a complete overhaul of our telephony system. And that's going to involve replacing every phone in the district, as well as we're moving away from servers to a cloud-based system that's going to allow us a lot more granularity, as well as a lot more control, and we think a lot more stability in the process. I know that's incredibly fast, but again, we just want to let you know the steps where we're finding ourselves, some of the big initial action plans that we have, and I'm certainly able to ask any questions or go into any more detail about any of the areas.
Ms. Millar?
This may sound simple, but I don't know the difference between a laptop and a Chromebook.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic question.
Because it looks like a laptop to me.
They look very similar. In fact, in some manufacturers, they're the exact same body.
Okay.
It's mostly the operating system. One's a Windows operating system.
Oh, okay.
That we have here, that you're probably most familiar with, or the Chrome Windows, which is entirely web-based. So there's no software on a Chromebook. It's all based on cloud computing, and it allows for you can have a lot less power to do very similar work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ms. Lake?
You have been a busy man. Wow, it's incredible. What do you do for cybersecurity?
We do a number of things for sure. We meet monthly with an outside agency that we look at some of our practices. They review the best practices. We patch our devices. Our Windows machines get patches every month when they come out. They're pushed out to all of our machines. We enforce things like multi-factor authentication. That's when you sign on to your email for the first time, you need to set it up so you have a second way to do it, usually your phone. There's a whole host of ways that we are looking to safeguard our network and our users' privacy as much as possible.
Is there any kind of is there like a firewall or anything that?
Absolutely. We have a firewall between
I'm
us
going
and
to cut you
both.
off. We're going to do that in a memo to the board. We're not going to discuss that publicly, what our systems are.
Okay.
Just from a safety and security standpoint.
makes
So you'll get an
sense.
update in
That's fine.
the superintendent's report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you, board member, but I just. Question? Vice President Farmer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm wondering what we're going to be doing with the desktops that we are talking about getting rid of.
Honestly, the desktops, the majority of our desktops are out of age, they are end of support. They can't take Windows 11, and then in October 2025, Windows stops supporting Windows 10. So they're not gonna get any more patches, security. So what we do is, we actually buy all of our equipment through BOCES, and so we actually will just return them to BOCES, and they will do whatever they decide to do with them.
Can they still be used for typing documents, printing things out?
No,
Or
from a
that would be-
security point of view, they need to be out of the system for sure.
Oh, from a
The-
security point of view.
Yes, because because Windows 10 is the end of support, in October 2025, they're not safe to have in here. Windows devices are some of the most vulnerable devices in the world, so you want to make sure that they're patched, and once you can't put a patch on them, you don't want them anywhere near our network.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask one more?
Go ahead.
Do we still have kids in our district who are working on Chromebooks and smart devices?
All of our students have Chromebooks, they're all assigned to Chromebooks.
Yes, but there used to be, Kathy used to talk about this, that we had a group of kids in our district.
Oh.
That work for us.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Yeah, that's
There's not one currently. It's actually one of the long-term benefits of the warranty system is that they have, some of the manufacturers we're in conversations with have entire programs. And Corey Skinner and I have been in length discussions about revitalizing that. I would love to bring it back. My former district, I always called it my white whale. That was never able to get up and going. I'm really hoping to bring it here in the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I just have a couple questions. Anybody else? When you talk about the Chromebooks being damaged, like what percent of the Chromebooks are damaged on an annual basis? And how many are, and what percentage are destroyed?
Damage and destroy, I'll be honest, I don't have those numbers here. I just haven't done that calculation. I was in a similar position in another district, and it was around 20% that were damaged over a course of the year. I would guess that it was very similar. I can start doing those calculations. It'll take a little bit, but I'll certainly get those numbers for you.
And then on your slide on page 10 on device deployment schedule,
Yeah.
I know you do it here. Are staff members going to be able to get significant notice and reminders that that's upcoming? Instead of like the Friday before, we're going to do it over the weekend and you don't have a computer anymore?
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things we're working with the technicians about, is that they're going to be reaching out, setting up appointments. It's a really change in practice. They're going to set up, and the user will tell them when they want them to come over and do it within a span of time.
Okay, because I know we've struggled with that sometimes with technology updates and nobody knows it's coming until it's already come.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I hear about.
I believe in over-communication when it comes to those kind of changes. Change is hard for everyone. And so I really want to make sure we get that news out as it's happening.
And then as a follow-up to the device deployment, as you're doing these groups of people, are the employees going to have enough time to transfer either, I mean, I've seen some desktops that are loaded with, right on their, right on the desktop, on the desktop computer. Are they going to have ample time to move everything to the cloud or into a different, Google Docs, whatever we're using? Are they going to have ample time again? Because I'm concerned that, if we don't give them the time, there's going to be things that are lost or things that don't get transferred over, which is going to become a problem.
Absolutely. And this, I can't take credit for this because it was set up long before me, but actually when you're looking at those desktops, that's not actually the desktop of the computer. It's actually back on our server.
Okay.
So honestly, the second they log into a different device, it will all be there.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
So it's just a shortcut that's appearing like it's on the desktop.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
it?
you. Thank you all for the time.
I think that's the first time anybody's gotten applause in a presentation. Might have to have you present more often. Up your game, Fleming. All right, moving on to 5.01. Can I so move to the table the 25-26 bus replacement purchase resolution? Moved by Mr. Sensel, seconded by Vice President Farmer. Any comments, questions, or concerns on this? I'm just going to make a comment, just so everybody's aware, there are no electric buses being purchased by the Greece Central School District. I got that question today from 2 different people, so it's no electric buses. So with that, all those in favor? That passes 7-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Can I have somebody move the consent agenda to the table, please? Moved by Ms. Malloy, seconded by Vice President Farmer. Any comments, questions, or concerns on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? That passes 7-0. Moving on to item 10.01, guiding documents resolution. Can I have Sonny move that to the table, please? Moved by Mr. Stetzel, seconded by Vice President Farmer. This was submitted by Board Member Like, so I'm going to let her speak to it first.
Yes. Thank you. I've asked that these very lengthy and significant documents, like the school improvement plans and the strategic plan, be given to us 6 weeks in advance. That's not, I guess I'm not supposed to change the language or anything, but the idea is just so we have it and so we can have the time to spend and be able to make an informed decision. It was very helpful to have your update today and to be able to give you feedback based on what we remember we, dealt with last time. So that's why I have done that. And again, I just wanted some extra time from Friday to Tuesday for those documents, and now we have 2 more schools. And that's just a huge amount of material. So that's why I had suggested that, or asked for that.
Any other comments? All right, I have a couple points, I guess, of clarification. You mentioned PLC in there, you have PLC mentioned?
That was a rather long,
Do you mean the professional learning plan?
yes.
Oh, okay.
That was
Because the
lo-
PLC is something different, so I
Oh.
just wanted to make sure it was the plan.
Yeah, it was the long document.
Okay,
I got to page
perfect.
8 and I thought I was going to lose it.
And so I guess I'd like to make an amendment to your resolution. I would like to change PLC to professional learning plan.
Please.
I would like to take out SIP, school improvement plans, because the board doesn't vote on school improvement plans. I would replace that with the SCEP, which is the plan we vote on. I would also like to drop it from 6 weeks down to 2 weeks. And then I would like to remove and should include an in-depth review of the proposals by the administration. I'd like to remove that, and I would like to, so that last sentence would read, so it'll go, the advance notice will provide ample time for board members to review the documents, including a review of, I'm going to change specific to research-based strategies and supporting evidence from New York State SED-approved clearinghouses. I just don't want to use what works specifically, so I'm going to make that as a, I guess as an amendment to the resolution. Can I get a second?
I have a question.
We have to get a second first.
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Farmer. Mr. Bonnegorio.
I appreciate the numerous adjustments in there. I'm wondering if we can, well, I have a question regarding the removal of the in-depth. There was a lot there. I'm not sure I'm following all of it. So I was going to suggest maybe we could revise that to a 2-step process, just so we can narrow some things out and just make it a little easier to follow all of the changes that are going on. But I guess my main question is, you're removing the in-depth review, and I'm not sure exactly what you're replacing that with, and
Nothing. It would just go away. It would be ample time for board members to review the documents, including a review of specific research-based strategies and supporting evidence from New York State SED-approved clearinghouses. I'm not sure, I think an in-depth review of proposals by the administration. I mean, typically, that's the presentation we get. I would guess it'd be, so we get a presentation on all of these from the administration, so I'm just assuming that that would continue as opposed to, I don't know what more in-depth would be, I guess, is my question. So that's why I removed that.
Would it be would there be an opportunity, I guess, if there's enough time, would there be an opportunity, should there be a lot of questions, to dig beyond what might happen at one of these presentations? Presentation might raise a lot of questions that we might want to dig a little deeper into. So I think maybe with more time available, I guess, would we potentially be able to have a follow-up to dig into some of those questions more?
Do you want to say something?
So I think the bigger question, what stood out to me with the 6 weeks was only the concern. So this is, well, as Mark mentioned, we just got clarity on when they needed to be uploaded, right? And I'm assuming it would be no later than the second meeting in August, because prior to the start of school. The 6 weeks would, for them to be completed and handed in by the 6 weeks, would require all of the plans to be completely done by the end of the school year. And then when you saw the timeline, what that does is it eliminates July, which is a critical time for schools to work with their teams, and then also summer leadership. So it wasn't wasn't a means to keep them from you. It was a means that to have them 6 weeks in advance, it would eliminate that time frame that they need. I wasn't sure exactly, so that's the 6 weeks, but wasn't quite sure what an in-depth review of the proposals by the administration, if who you were referring to by administration, that was cabinet that's reviewing the school improvement plans? Because if that's the case, we are, for example, Mark and our school improvement team works hand in hand all the way through that process, and to, number one, make sure it aligns to what we know New York State's requiring. So that in-depth review of the proposals or of the SCEP plans is part of that continuous process right through till you see them.
And it takes, and it is explained at the presentation. And can the presentation be sometime before we vote on it?
Yeah, and I think what I heard Sean recommend was if we could get them in, rather than that Friday, like the board meeting that leading to that, like not seeing them the first time at that Tuesday, if we could back it up almost like our policies to some degree, to that meeting before, where you could have that time to look. The other piece is that these are living documents. So, you know, if they're approved, let's just say that following meeting and uploaded, our buildings do refine as time goes on. So we always have that ability. I think the struggle that we're put in when, is that they are working on them almost to the time that we have to submit them to the state. But during that time, you do not work alone. They work with us and the state. So that's the only struggle, Mark, when you were mentioning, we could ask the questions, you know, when you have them. The issue is at that point, they've been reviewed, at least from our standpoint, to then be uploaded. So I don't know what we could do afterwards, is the struggle that we're in with the timeline.
Yeah.
But our plan is to continue between now and that time to bring the board up to speed through study sessions or whatever it may be, so that you're along for the process. I also wanted just to let you know that the New York State clearinghouse, or what they suggest, includes the What Works clearinghouse. That's in New York State, so in fact, that's recommended. So it just doesn't lock us into just that. It does have several options in there, and that's one of them.
And this is the thing I like the most, is that the feedback and the changes, it's a continuous loop. So I see that being done, so it's not as critical that, you know, we know that things that come up will be continue to be worked on in the next year too, so.
Anything else on the amendment? All right, I'll read back so everybody's clear on what the amendment will be. That the result of the final drafts of the guiding documents, the DCIP, the SCEPS, SCEP, the strategic plan, code of conduct, and the professional learning plan will be presented to the Board of Education at least 2 weeks prior to approval. The advance notice will provide ample time for board members to review the documents, including a review of research-based strategies and supporting evidence from New York State SED-approved clearinghouses. So with that, we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with Ms. Malloy.
Yes.
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 And I'm a yes. So now back to the main resolution as amended. I'm kind of assuming since we all supported it that we're going to support it. So all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 7-0. Thank you. And moving on to 10.02, can I have somebody move this resolution to the table, please? Moved by Ms. Farah, second by Mr. Bonagorio. With that, Mr. Bonagorio, it's your resolution. I'll let you speak first.
Great, thank you. So the objective of this resolution is for the board to receive timely information regarding the results of our various perception surveys. I'm asking that, essentially, that the board be given the information, I think it's written in here, within 15 days of, within 15 days of the district administration having access to it. The intent is just to make sure that we are kept in the loop of the perceptions of our staff, our teachers, whatever, the various staff members, parents, students, and the various items that I've referenced below are some goals that we would want to have embedded in this whole process, one being maximum participation of the various constituent groups, that the information be insightful in the sense that it references avoiding uncertain or undecided responses. I think a lot of people sometimes kind of check that uncertain box in order to avoid taking a position, and I think it's important as much as possible for surveys to push people to really kind of stake their claim. That's where we can be, as a district, most helpful. It needs to be impactful, meaning that respondents should have a good sense that this information is being gathered sincerely with the goal of improving our district, and it needs to be anonymous. I know it is. Some people never feel secure about that, but I think these are all kind of assurances that we just want to emphasize. So some of these may be measurable, some of them may not be, but I think these are the goals and the intents behind doing this. We want to make a better district. We all want to be in the loop on how to do that.
Anybody else? I have a couple of comments. I'm going to do them for each of the resolved. On the very first resolve, therefore be it resolved, maximum participation. Respondents should be confident that the responses are completely anonymous so their perceptions can be honestly shared without concern about recourse of any kind. Through Panorama, all of the surveys are anonymous. We do not have access to any of the names or identifiable information that is connected to survey responses. GTA executive leadership has never fielded a negative complaint regarding any of our surveys. On your second bullet point, therefore be it further resolved, surveys should be constructed to avoid uncertain or undecided responses, neutral responses, avoided to biased responses, and encourage honest input. The 5-point Likert scale is the gold standard for attitude perception surveys. Any scale construction should include a midpoint or an undecided point. If they don't, you are essentially forcing respondents into an opinion they may not have, thus skewing the data. If the majority of the responses are neutral, that is an indication that it's worth examining and potentially revising the question, not the scale. On the next bullet point, therefore be it further resolved, impactful respondents should be confident that the responses will be cultivate trust, et cetera. The perception surveys have been done in our schools for 8 years. These surveys play an important role in our school improvement process. Building leaders have always encouraged all of our stakeholders to participate and have used the data to improve systems as needed. In the next one, the 15-day, I won't read it all. That's, I'm supportive of that one. The district does have the results, and parents within 15 days, so I have no issue with that. And again, every response in the survey is anonymous, so I don't think we have to worry about that. And in the last bullet point, the survey window is consistent year to year. This year it was administered January 6th to February 7th. More than 5,500 students in grades 2 through 12, 1,000 plus teachers, and 2,000 families completed this year's survey. So with that, I would like to amend the resolution, and I want to cross out the second, therefore be it resolved. Insightful surveys should be constructed to avoid the uncertain, undecided responses and avoid biased responses that encourage honest input. So I'd like to strike that as part of my amendment. And what was the other part there? And they are anonymous, so I don't necessarily know if we need are completely anonymous, should be confident their responses are completely anonymous. I guess we can leave that, but they are anonymous, so it's kind of redundant. So with that, can I get a second on my amendment? Ms. Lake, is that a second? Thank you.
Could you read the first one you changed?
I'm eliminating, therefore be it further resolved, insightful surveys should be constructed to avoid uncertain or undecided responses. That's that second, therefore be it resolved. I'm striking everything else, I'm leaving.
Are you including Panorama is an anonymous?
I mean, it is.
You said it, I don't know if it's included.
I didn't include it because it's kind of redundant, I guess.
Okay,
I
I
don't
got you.
necessarily know if we need to even have,
Yeah, that's what I'm
that are completely anonymous. I mean, I guess I can leave it. I'm
I
not.
guess for me, it just, I wonder if it causes people to think that they aren't anonymous if we have to.
Say that.
Yeah.
That was my kind
So,
of thing.
what do you think, Mark?
Well, I bring that up because I have heard potential respondents say, yeah, I don't believe they're anonymous. And I think from my perspective, I want to make sure that they are. I want to give our full confirmation that they are. We're not trying to dig. We just want to assure. That's all it is.
So you're thinking in writing, it will bring that assurance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Superintendent Smalley.
I wanted to be sure, it goes to our conversation, that we can give those surveys within that time limit. I just want to be clear that it's the district surveys. It's not the individual schools, that we don't have the ability, that we don't create reports, that it's just the district survey results for the 3 stakeholders. And that it doesn't cause any confusion that it would be the individual schools, because those are done through the buildings on their own computer, what we took. So as long as that's clear, I don't know if it has to be written there clearly, but as long as everybody has that understanding.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you for that clarification in our prior conversation.
Any other discussion on the amendment? All right, those all in favor of the amendment? That passes 7-0. Now back to the main resolution. Any more comments, discussion on the main resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor? That passes 7-0. Moving on to superintendent comments. Superintendent Smalley.
Good evening. I was aware of the speaker's coming tonight, so I just prepared a little bit of a response for all of you. And I did want to just take a moment to acknowledge the parents and the students from Arcadia and some of our other schools who spoke this evening about their concerns. We hear you, and we recognize the issues that you have shared. I've been with the district since 2005, and I do believe that as a district, we have been open about the challenges we face, particularly addressing violence and meeting the behavioral needs of our students in our schools. I don't feel that we shy away from these realities. We do try to confront them head-on with transparency and taking action, and I do recognize that sometimes that action maybe parents don't agree with, but we do try to be transparent and take the action the best we can to support our students, our staff, and our families. Our commitment extends beyond accountability and consequences. We are also focused on addressing the root causes that contribute to these issues. To that end, just wanted to share some of the significant steps that we have tried throughout the years, especially over the past few years. We have looked to expand membership in student parent voice in our Code of Conduct Committee. We have added several positions dedicated to violence prevention, our social workers, counselors, and teachers on special assignment. We have had significant positions to meet the needs that you all shared tonight. We have provided extensive training and professional development for our staff, including implementing programs like Leader in Me at the elementary or K through 8 levels, and social emotional learning blocks to teach and reinforce pro-social behaviors. We have facilitated dozens of mediations to prevent and resolve conflicts among students. We are continually looking to engage parents. So I'm grateful that you are here, but we look to engage parent meetings to foster collaboration and understanding. We have established behavior contracts for some of our most chronic students, individual students that those are needed for. And we do continually enforce short and long-term suspensions. I mean, that was brought up earlier today. We do know that when there is violent behaviors, we do enforce short and long-term suspensions. Those do not go down. These are truly complex challenges that do require strong, trusting partnerships between schools and families. And just today, Ms. Larson and I, we just returned from the New York State Council of School Superintendents Winter Conference, and I had the opportunity to work with superintendents from across the state, and they all are voicing their same concerns. These issues are not unique to our district. They are part of a broader conversation happening in schools, and I'm not saying that to excuse it. I am not saying that at all to excuse it. I just know that this is a school and society issue that we are all truly struggling with. However, we know that real progress happens when schools, parents, and community members work together. And we have seen success in Greece in some of our schools very recently when collaboration schools have worked with parents and community members to create a safe and supportive environment for all students. I do believe that together we can and we must ensure that our schools remain a place where students feel safe, valued, and empowered to learn. I do appreciate you coming tonight. I do assure you that we will continue to be very focused at our schools where we hear these concerns and continue to work and encourage families to come in to our schools. That's where that work takes place, is in our schools. And we will, all of us will commit to being a part of that and supporting as best as we can so that your children are coming to school feeling safe, feeling valued, and having fun. And getting back to what, like I think somebody mentioned earlier, laughing and enjoying time with friends and learning. And so we are committed to doing that work, and we're looking forward to working with you. I also had one more comment. I just wanted to extend my gratitude to Deputy Superintendent Mark Fleming for his insightful presentation this evening. Also wanted to thank GTA and GASA for sharing more about our work with school improvement and our guiding coalitions. I want to recognize the dedicated efforts of our school improvement teams, of our district and building leaders, the district and school guiding coalitions, all who've been laser-focused on advancing professional learning communities. We firmly believe that strong, effective PLCs are the key to empowering our teachers and support staff by equipping them with the tools and collaboration needed to meet the diverse needs of all of our students. So for all of you involved in that work, your commitment to this work is making a lasting impact on our schools and our students, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Smalley. Mr. Alvarez, you're up.
Thank you. So the Superintendent's Advisory Council had a meeting last month in February where we looked at Superintendent Smalleen's entry plan and was able to have an insight on the goals that the superintendent has to accomplish for the district. And then we were also able to speak to several district leaders who were helping us plan our second annual Student Leadership Summit and discuss the different ideas that we had and the different ideas that they had to ensure a great event. Last month was Black History Month, and I had the amazing opportunity to speak at the celebration and see different student performances and as well as their art in the that they showcased for the district. And in recognition of last month being Black History Month, I also want to acknowledge that this month is Women's History Month, a month not only to acknowledge the contributions that women have made in our society in the past, but to recognize the impact that they continue to make on our daily lives. The Odyssey Black Student Union is hosting a cultural showcase for all high school students across the district, where students will do a series of performances that exemplify their culture through fashion, dance, singing, spoken word, and more. The date is March 14th, and it is starting in the Odyssey cafeteria at 5 o'clock, moving into the auditorium promptly at 6:30 and ending at 7:30. The Olympia students hosted a Black Scholars Luncheon where they celebrated Black students for their academic achievements. And a special mention to this is that the culinary class that our district offers catered the event, which is always great to see the partnership and the support within the school community. And then the Black Student Union at Athena hosted their third annual Blackout Gala, and many students have stated that this event was not only successful, but it had a great turnout, and many of them had a great time coming together to celebrate excellence in our district, but as well as enjoy the time together. And then at Longridge, many students had the chance to cast a vote for who they would like to see get pied at an assembly, but their ability to vote was based on their growth in iReady scoring, which was told to me that many of the students that voted, it was a very high number, meaning that many students participated in the voting because of their growth of the scores. So that was a nice highlight for me to hear. And then finally, last month, February 7th, a young Black girl passed away at Odyssey, and her name was Brielle Toe. She was an early grad with many aspirations on becoming an entrepreneur and journalist. And to those that knew her, they knew that she always had a smile on her face. And while she was always very soft-spoken, she had a strong voice for advocacy and change. She made an amazing impact on the community, and her legacy and spirit will forever dwell in the building. And with that being said, I want to express my appreciation to the Greece Odyssey staff, teachers, administration, and as well as district leaders for their support to students. I, for one, was Brielle's best friend, and I could say that the support that I received was sincere and genuine from everyone in the community through my own moments of sadness and grief, and it truly shows how connected our community is and dedicated to ensuring that students have that support system to be successful, whether they're in the school or outside the school.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Board member comments. Ms. Lake.
I was unable to attend the last meeting because I was in Albany advocating for community schools. I was pleased to share with our legislators how the Greece model strives for equitable opportunities for all students, regardless of the difficulties in their lives, supports the instructional goals of their schools, and involves parents, even with fraction night or Valentine's Day dance. I did, however, watch the meeting with particular interest to the mid-year strategic plan update and questions raised by my colleagues. I thought about our 3 commitments and measures of success. Our strategic plan is thoughtful and complex, but it often leaves me lost in the weeds. I also thought about SMART goals and a plumb line. You may not know what a plumb line is, but you may all be too young, but before levels, they would put a string on a thumbtack and a weight at the bottom, and that was due north and south, and you could pretty much level anything, any picture frame, any collection of pictures with that plumb line, but it was always something you could count on. So I believe that complex problems often have simple solutions, not necessarily easy, but simple. We also seem to agree that change is needed, but become entangled in the solutions. What if we decided on 3 WIGs, which is why I came prepared tonight? Some of you may not know what WIGs are, but they are wildly important goals. And I'd like to suggest mine, which is why I ran for school board. 1, safe and orderly environment for everyone in the building or around the building, and even businesses in the neighborhoods. 100% proficiency in reading and math at grades 3, 4, and 8. And a high level of support for classroom teachers. For each WIG, we now establish SMART goals. And thanks to my friend to my left, they are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. We collect data and review it in relation to the WIGs. That's always our plumb line. We look at every initiative and program that we have in the district, and nothing is off the table. ARC, after-school clubs, community schools, peer accountability council, restorative practices, SEL, everything we do, and we hold it up to those 3. Is it getting us closer to that goal? Not at all, or even is it making it worse? Can we tweak it to make it work? The last one, the high level of support for classroom teachers. I really have a heart for this, being a former classroom teacher. The PLCs are great, but they're not everything that teachers need. Teachers are responsible for their classrooms, but I believe too much of that the responsibility is placed on them beyond that. Students must clearly understand rules of conduct so that teachers can do what they do best. Every non-teaching staff member should contribute to a safe and orderly environment, even if it means manning bathrooms or being in the cafeterias where kids are having lunch. Also, that neutral response that we talked about has bothered me. It bothered me from the very beginning, and it was really interesting how Mark broke it down once, and we were looking at the different kinds of questions, and where teachers' agency was involved, something that they could do, deliver instruction to my students, the neutrals were very low. In other things that might be kind of a controversial issue or a delicate issue, there were a lot more neutrals. And so really wondering about pulling out those neutrals and ignoring them, or looking at what a high degree of neutrals might be saying, what message might be embedded there. Especially many of those issues, teachers are intimately involved with every day. And of course, having done that for 34 years, it's hard to believe that any teacher would say, oh, I have no opinion on that one. I suppose it's possible, but our best and our brightest teachers can and will transform schools, just as they can transform the lives and futures of their students. It's currently in vogue to equate all voices, but it's important to recognize that some voices divide and tear down, where others make the world a better place. And many of those have been our teachers. We're fortunate in our district right now to have a dedicated, capable, hardworking leadership team open to feedback. Now may be the time we can really personify excellence in education.
Thank you, Ms. Lake.
You're welcome.
Board Member Millar?
I have a few comments. I had the opportunity this past month to enjoy the celebration of Black excellence. My colleague over here did a fabulous job. It was so wonderful to see so many students from our district participate in that. I also, Early Learning Center is my place, and I went to another Westie University, and it's so invigorating for me to see our youngest students, because they're our future, and they're so excited to be there and participating. I love it. It's music time for me, and of course it's musicals, so I had the opportunity to see The Little Mermaid at Odyssey. I could tell every one of those students was having a fabulous time. I love that. And the next 2 weekends, Arcadia High School, is doing Into the Woods. Want to remind people that Arcadia won the last 2 years Rochester Broadway Theater League's Production of the Year. I think they have a good chance again this year. Finally, on a personal note, at the last board meeting, we voted on the veterans exemption, and I voted against it. And I didn't explain, and I'd like to. My father was a World War II veteran and had earned 2 Purple Hearts, so he was injured in the war, was always very active in the American Legion and the VFW. When I thought about my dad would not have wanted his neighbors to pay his taxes. He wanted to serve his community for that, and that's the reason I did not vote for that. I'm happy to pass, and I have a challenge for all the veterans in our community. They said there was around 3,000 of them. I'd like you to come out in May and help support the budget, because sometimes we don't even get 3,000 people in the community to vote. So support our schools if you can, please. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Bonagordo?
Thank you. I also had an opportunity to get out and see The Little Mermaid. Saw some of our staff there, and it was a great time, really amazing group of young people. I want to just acknowledge our student board member's comments regarding his classmate. Because I had a conversation with someone from another district who was kind of lamenting the lack of expression when a tragedy happens in some places. And I'm just really taken by the amount of care that we see around here. And and I know Mr. McCabe acknowledged that student and several other people in our community at the last board meeting. I wasn't here, like Board Member Lake. I was away, but had the opportunity to watch the meeting afterward, and I appreciate that. I think it's really telling about the character and caring of this district. So my sympathies to you and your friends and Brielle's family, Silas. I want to extend that same care to the parents who came out today to address concerns, and to the young student who bravely spoke. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing for parents to do. I want to echo Superintendent Smalleen's comments that your voices and your collaboration, your participation on committees, just being involved in so many different ways is really, really valuable. Please be involved, continue to be involved. It's extremely important. I know this isn't a Q&A opportunity. I'm going to propose some thoughts, and I know we've been shown that we do not shy away from suspensions when bad things happen. And I also know we've been repeatedly shown we have obligations under the compliance assurance plan and the law that we have to take certain actions. And we can't do those things lightly. We have to be attentive to the needs of all of our students, including those who at times create chaos, violence, disruption. But I want to echo the voices of the parents here tonight that we cannot forget about the other students in the process. John Hattie, in his book Visible Learning, focuses on the importance of school as being safe for students. And he emphasizes that if classes are to be inviting places that are fair and safe and places where students are respected as learners, then there is no place for bullying. No place, he says. That's a quote. He cites research that says that that bullying behaviors have a strong and significant effect size, a negative correlation between achievement and bullying. And the same is true with disruptive behavior. Students can have a negative effect on their own learning and on other students' learning. And he says, quote, again, a major message is that poor behavior needs fair, clear, and understood consequences. He points out the strong effect sizes for positive consequences, negative consequences, and combinations of both. But he emphasizes consequences matter. The effects of understood consequences are high for reductions in the regular classroom and higher in self-contained special classes. And I'm wondering, and maybe at some point, Superintendent Smallene, you or some of your staff can help me understand and maybe investigate. I know we have, and I thought this was part of the issue under the designations that we talked about earlier, that part of it was due to disparities in suspensions or discipline. Apparently, I was off on exactly where that fell in, but since so many of our students who create disruptions and violence are often, it's a small number, and often they're repeat offenders. Is there a way that we can separate that small group to deal with them in a different way? I know that that's not for a discussion now. I'm just putting a question out there. There has to be, and I view our role not just as oversight, but also advocacy. How do we together talk about changes that can help us deliver better results for all of our students? Because we cannot forget the students who are here with the intent of learning. And we can't forget about our teachers either, who are in that environment. So thank you. Stay involved.
Thank you, Mr. Bongorio. Board member comments? Ms. Farah.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to go over a few things that have happened over the past month. A couple of us did get a chance to do the Black History Excellence Luncheon over at Olympia. That was a great event to see. Our culinary skills students did a great job with that. Also, we also had an opportunity to do The Little Mermaid and see that. The vocals were amazing from Ariel and Ursula. They really belted those out. As far as Sebastian, I think he took my jacket out of his closet, or out of my closet, the sparkles. I had an opportunity to get back from New York State regarding our advocacy from Monroe County School Board Association, where we got to sit down with the Senior Deputy Commissioner, Jeff Matheson, regarding what was going on, where we're going to see things, what's going on with the electric bus mandate, if there's anything that we can see with the governor's budget. We got a lot of updates. I think a lot of us were in agreement regarding a few things. I know that there's going to be some changes possibly to the foundation aid. A lot of this stuff, really, though, Romeo, you did touch on. So not much more different happened from that. There's a plan pilot for a project-based learning. We're going over graduation measures, portraits of the graduate. We are going to be looking at the rubrics. So with all of that, I also want to thank the parents for coming out here for resident forums. I know sometimes it's not easy to hear a lot of these things, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, so I do appreciate all the feedback that we do get from our parents. Lastly, let's see here. There's a Spring Fest coming up at Arcadia Middle School as a district for community schools, April 26th from 11 to 1:30. I hope to see all of you there. And that is all I've got.
Thank you, Ms. Farrar. Jordan, you good? All right. Vice President Farmer.
Just a few things. Silas, I so appreciate you having the strength to share what you shared about your best friend. It reminds us that we are taking care of each other, that we need to take care of each other. The advocacy from parents coming in, talking about how can we take care of all of our kids, how can we take care of my kids. I sometimes wonder if what we're seeing out in, over the years with the school things horrific things that are happening in our schools. And I appreciated the mother who said, when my kids come back home, I have to reteach them. And that just what an incredible thing that we do as parents, the opportunity to have to continue telling our students, our children, our children. So you being here says that Greece is an opportunity for us to come together. We passed this veterans exemption last week because we care about the people in our communities. When I listen to Jeremy and everybody talking about the safety of our kids, we know, we feel that, and we talk about it and we discuss it. We want you to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Farmer. All right, I want to thank all the parents that came here tonight. It's not easy to come to a board meeting and speak publicly, especially about something that you're not happy with, and I totally get that. I empathize with you and with the issues, and your advocacy is well taken, and the board, we're doing what we can do, and going to continue to work harder to turn the environment around in all our schools. We want all our schools to be positive. We have some things coming later in the spring that are going to hopefully improve the school climates in all of our schools. So I just want to take the time to thank you. I want to thank our students for speaking tonight. The messaging was heard. I just want to make sure you guys understand that. And to be honest, I'm going to kind of echo what Vice President Farmer said. I wish I had a district full of parents like you. We probably wouldn't have any issues in our schools if we had more parents like you, so I totally appreciate that. I'd like to wish good luck to the Greece Arcadia cheerleading team as they head to states this weekend. Hopefully they will be state champions, and we can recognize them here at a board meeting. I would like to thank the Flom Eye Institute for the eye screenings they gave our students. That is much appreciated, and eye health is significant to all your other health in your body. And I'm just going to finish up. It is Women's History Month, and I want to recognize some amazing women in this room who make this district a better place every day. Assistant Superintendent Flagler, Assistant Superintendent Baker, Assistant Superintendent Larson, our board clerk, Lori Manhart. They work tirelessly on behalf of this district, day in and day out. I mean, there's no 5 days a week, 9 to 5 with them. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So I want to truly appreciate all what you guys do on behalf of the school district and the effort you're putting in. I want to recognize the women on the board that I serve with. Board Member Malore, my former vice president. She's been a huge support for me over the last several years. Ms. Light comes in as a new board member. She brings a lot of good ideas. She's willing to talk. She's willing to discuss. She's advocating on behalf of this district every day. Miss Farah, the same. She advocates passionately about this district. I mean, her and I don't see eye to eye on some things, but I appreciate the fact that she works hard for our students and our families in this district. And Vice President Farmer, she brings a unique perspective. I truly appreciate it. Took a while to get to understand Tracy, but I think I finally figured it out a little bit. So, and I truly appreciate what all four of you do on behalf of our students. In a volunteer position, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of phone calls, it's a lot of stress, and I just want to thank you all. And with that, I want everyone to have a good evening. Be safe, be healthy. God bless and go Bills. And
Like to
Terry,
make a
since you're the
motion?
senior member tonight,
I'd like to make a motion to end this meeting.
is there a second? Mr. Stutzel, all those in favor? Thank you, everyone.